We live in a world where creativity is quick these days. Everybody tells us that things need to be fast, content needs to come out regularly. We need more hustle, more content, more speed. And I find it really damaging to creative longevity and creative purpose, especially when we are in recovery, and especially when we're looking to create something that's going to last for a long time and to provide a new way of life for us after we've made the decision to stop using drink and drugs. Speed, in my experience as a creative person in recovery, very often, leads to burnout. And today I want to talk a little bit about that and why I don't think it's exactly appropriate to be aiming for speed all the time. In my opinion, in my best estimation, a lot of the short form content that we see online now is very much like fireworks. You know, it fizzes up really quickly, explodes with a bang, and then, you know, the next one goes off and we all admire that, and then the next one goes off and we all admire that. The problem with fireworks is that they're short-lived, and to be honest, they're quite annoying after a while, and this is the space I find myself in at the moment with content. You know, it's like, yeah, okay, reels are great, you know, and I'm getting millions of views on them, okay, fantastic, but does it create sustainable creative practice, and does it actually fulfill us creatively? And I think the answer is no. You know, so I want to pose a question today, and that is, what if slowing down is actually a much better fuel for our creativity? You know, I think the firework analogy is good, and the way I'm trying to live my life now, and the way that I would recommend other creative people in recovery to live theirs, is to take a stance against speed. You know, fight your corner for slowness, and instead of sending fireworks up, you know, multiple times a day to the annoyance of everybody else on the internet, why don't we instead try to build a log fire that we can all sit around, play music around, share food and stories around, communicate around, and get warm and sleep and enjoy each other's company around. This is how I'm trying to build my own creative practice, and I think it's definitely a good thing to aspire for the same. So when I slowed down post-addiction, what shifted for me? You know, I'm 5.5 years into this recovery journey now, and what I want to do is just try and share a bit of my experience, you know, about what that's been like. I think getting into recovery gave me a new sense of who I was as a person, and it has made me have to relearn what I like, who I want to be. The direction that I'm going in is constantly changing. But through this work, I've found a sense of clarity. I've found a deeper sense of purpose about why I'm doing what I'm doing and who I really am. And now that I'm taking this sort of slower stance to creativity, there is less of a panic about output and more of an enjoyment of the process and of the whole act of creation, not needing to revolve around speed and deadlines and punctuality, perhaps, let's put it that way. You know, there are times in our lives where speed is of the essence, and, you know, we've got deadlines and we do need to meet them. But I think as a broader creative practice, if we're talking over decades or a lifetime, then slowness really needs to be at the center of that. You know, the chaotic productivity and addiction, which I talk about a lot, is something that I've tried to leave behind, you know, and it still lives in me at times. And there are times when, you know, I'm fast and I'm manic and I'm just trying to get things done quickly, and, you know, my routine gets off to a bad start in the morning, and things get all out of kilter. And if you think that you're a bit like that yourself, then, you know, I would aim to really try and think about sustainability with your own creative practice, and how we're going to achieve that, you know, and that's through doing small creative acts every day, through journaling, writing by hand, long walks in nature, letting our ideas breathe. And what I want to do is frame slowness as a kind of creative discipline, and not as a laziness, as is often the case on the internet today. You know, as I talked about earlier, we see a lot of this hustle culture telling us that we need to do things as quickly as possible, and I'm here to say that I don't think that's really the case anymore. You know, I don't think it's ever been the case for creative people. Creative discipline, in my experience, is not it's not about time or speed. It's about consistency. It's about authenticity. It's about intention, and it's about being truthful to ourselves as makers, as artists in recovery, as people who are trying to figure out who we really are and what we're really doing with our time. So for me, and hopefully for you as well, I'm making a move. This is why I'm doing this content, let's be honest. I'm making a move away from the short form. I much more enjoy making the long form stuff. And I think that this long form stuff, it's nothing new really. I think creativity operates from a place of long form, you know. We talk about long form versus short form content now, but these phrases are quite, well, they're very, very recent, aren't they, you know, and throughout all of human history, creativity has not operated in short form. It hasn't operated, you know, on a sort of daily, hourly, minute by minute basis. It's slowly developed over months and years, and that has been the way that it's always been. And I think very quickly we're going to return to that, you know, especially in this age of speed, and everything seems to be getting quicker. One place that I think we need to protect slowness is in our creative practice, whatever it might be. And so I want to say, if you are feeling the pressure to rush, maybe the most radical thing that you can do is slow down a little bit, give yourself a bit of grace, be kind to yourself, come to appreciate that slowness is actually a positive attribute for our creativity, and don't beat yourself up for being perhaps slower than some of your peers or slower than other people you see online. Creativity is it's really hard to put into words, but it's not, as much as I struggle with this idea, it's not about other people, it's about ourselves. It's a very internal and subjective journey, development, and it needs to be protected in that way. You know, going back to this previous point, slowness is a creative discipline. It's not laziness. You know, for me to appreciate now that being slow is a discipline, it's become really, really important, and I hope that it can become important for you as well. And so one thing I would like to suggest is to try one slow practice this week. See what changes. If you have got a creative activity that you do every day, or perhaps it's part of your job, or you're trying to get back into it and you feel like it's a little bit too quick, then maybe do it more slowly. Maybe do it for yourself exclusively and not for social media. Maybe don't post it online. Maybe start a project that is just totally for you and slow and secret, you know. If nobody was watching, what would you make? It's a really important question to ask yourselves, and that's it for this one, you know. These videos are going to keep going. I'm really enjoying making them. I'm enjoying just expressing my ideas and thinking a bit more deeply about what it is I really believe and who I want to touch and help and speak to. So if it does touch and help and speak to you, please let me know. And if it doesn't, please let me know. I love feedback, and yeah, give me a like, give me a follow, subscribe if you feel so inclined to, as per usual. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.